Hello, everybody out there in Baseball Nation. Steve Olson with Elite Baseball Prospect. Hope you're doing well. High school season's winding down, travel baseball's ramping up, and there's no doubt that the college recruiting process is going to be fast and furious. NCAA, taking the restriction of June 1st off. And if you've been reading all of the articles and Twitter remarks, the Division I college coaches are ready to go. They're excited to be able to get out and see their players. It's been well over a year, probably about 15 months. So it's a really, really important time for college recruiting. And as you know here, that's what we focus on, is helping our student athletes get to the next level and achieve their goal and aspiration of playing college baseball. But big news today is I'm excited on behalf of Elite Baseball Prospect to welcome a new partner, Eagle Claw Analytics. This is a company that is on the forefront of helping families and student athletes identify the right schools through pure data-driven analysis. And been watching this company now for about 4 or 5 months, kind of keeping tabs on them as we usually do. And they are the premier provider in this space. I think there's a lot of companies out there that, they provide advice, but they don't have the data behind it. They don't have the analytics behind it. They're not the baseball guys. They don't understand the recruiting process. In essence, then they give recruiting directors and they give families and players bad advice. But today I welcome Mike Vlasity from Eagle Claw Analytics. Mike has been just doing an outstanding job with him and his team developing this company. And I'm really excited to introduce them to you today. This is going to be part one of a series of educational platforms that we're going to provide, because this is really, really important. There's no doubt the amount of time, the amount of stress that goes into even finding the right college programs that your son could play for. And sometimes we take what I call the shotgun approach, and we throw profiles and we throw videos out there with no understanding. Do they recruit out of state? What type of student athlete are they looking for? What are the skill metrics? So we're just basically throwing a bunch of paper against the wall and hoping it sticks with no plan. The amount of hours that goes into that, and I would say the amount of wasted hours, is really what got me excited about Eagle Claw Analytics. They can now bring a concise reports on the college programs that your son is interested in and come back and say it's a good fit or it's not. And again, it's all by data, but I'm not going to steal the thunder here. I'm going to turn it over to Mike, because he's going to be able to do a great job of explaining it. And then we're going to actually show a couple of very concise reports today. We're going to walk through a viability analysis report, which is unbelievable, and then a college placement report, which is even going to bring more clarity. But Mike, welcome to Elite Baseball Prospect. We're excited to have Eagle Claw Analytics as part of our partnership, and I'll turn it over to you. You've got the stage now. Tell the parents and tell the players what separates Eagle Claw and how you guys can help us all out.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Very excited to be here with you. So I am Mike Vlasity. I am the founder and CEO of Eagle Claw Analytics. We are brand new to the recruiting scene. We've been around this is our initial year in business, and we have taken off in terms of popularity. We're getting great feedback from all over the country, helping athletes really navigate through what can be a complicated and sometimes messy recruiting process. There's a lot of different information out there that some of it is good, some of it is bad. And our goal is really just to break that down to something that can be understood and applied to informed decision-making going forward for a player and their families. So the original motivation for this company was to take advantage of the abundance of data that we have in the high school baseball space. Over the last 5 years, you've had several companies come out and integrate their tracking technology into high school tournaments, training facilities. They have, technology that you can bring to practice with you and throw it on your bat. It's all out there. And the result is a huge amount of raw data from players at all skill levels from all across the country that no one was really doing a whole lot with. And what it is an unprecedented opportunity to really quantify a lot of different things when it comes to college recruiting. So what we try to do is a simple way to put it is we're a college counselor with a baseball filter. Okay. So what we start with is really narrowing down on what you're looking for in a college experience. The question that we like to ask is, if you weren't playing baseball, would you be going to this school? Okay. Too often we get the answer of, well, I'll go anywhere I can play. To us, that's not a good enough answer, because we believe that, if you're happy with your college, if you're happy with where you're living, if you're happy with, the culture at the school you're attending, it's only going to help your baseball career. The transfer rate among college baseball players is extremely high. Clearly, players aren't getting their college choice right the first time, in many cases. And we attempt to give as much information as possible to really paint a picture of the situation at each school. Okay, so again, we start by taking your academic criteria. What do your grades look like? What are you looking for in terms of location? What region of the country do you want to live in? Do you know what you want to study? Do you know if you want to go to a big school or small school? What can you afford to pay in total cost of attendance? Do you need financial aid? We even look at things like four-year graduation rate, sophomore retention rate, student to faculty ratios. Okay, it's all in there. We provide all the services of a college counselor, and then we add in a baseball filter. Okay, so once we get things narrowed down based on what you're looking for in college, we look at that and say, great, now let's bring in baseball. What's the best situation for your athletic skill set, the roster breakdowns at each program, where are they recruiting, what are the recruiting trends, what does a position breakdown look like by class? And we bring in what, as far as we can tell, is a revolutionary evaluation method in terms of using the performance metrics data out there. How hard you're throwing, exit velocity, 60-yard dash, barrel speed, and using that to quantify athletic talent and match players to programs where college commits have had success in the past.
Well, that's outstanding. What a tremendous overview. And I think about the fact that what's going on now with kids getting it wrong, making the wrong decisions, going to the wrong school, then having to transfer. On top of the fact, we know that when we start building our initial list for our student athletes, it's so cumbersome, because we don't really know what student athlete on the academic side they're going to even recruit. And then on the baseball side, are you a good fit or not?
Yeah.
So just think of the amount of hours that go into that, the amount of hours that we're chasing college coaches, and they have no interest because we're really not zoned in and targeted in. And I think when you start to begin to add the data, and like I want to talk about the data just for a second, there's no doubt with TrackMan, Rapsodo, Blast, HitTrax, everything now is metric driven, from the Major League Baseball all the way down to high school, and certainly a big part of college recruiting. It is that initial filter factor. So how great would it be for your son to have where he's at right now with his metrics, factor in some projectability to see if he's a 23, where is he going to be in a year or two? If he's a 22, how fast do we have to go? And really get that data behind it and support it. And again, I come back, it's not your high school coach, it's not your travel coach, it's not a recruiting coach saying you're a good fit for XYZ University without having any supporting data. And I think that's one thing that is really cool about Eagle Claw Analytics. They're providing that to our student athletes and our families. And I look at it like this: it minimizes the risk of making the wrong decision. And I challenge the parents and the players, what is the value of doing that? What is the value of time efficiency? Being able to put together and target a list of schools, and we're going to talk about this in the viability analysis and the placement. There's several colleges out there today that simply recruit in state. So if their entire roster, which Mike and his team breaks down, they've got one out of the 35 or 40 players on their roster out of state, the chances of getting recruited if you're not in state is practically zero. So why would you have them on your list? At least we're able to, as what we talk a lot about with our recruits is, this is a filtering factor. You're throwing colleges out just as much as you're adding them, but how would you like to be adding them with some data driven going, you know what? Your son is a good fit for XY University academically, where he's at metrics right now in terms of his recruiting class and projectability. So this is a high target. Now, what you have to do is get your player profile, get your communication strategy, get to the camps and showcases, and get in front of that college coach. So streamlining the process from our perspective at Elite Baseball is what Mike said, revolutionary. This will take what could be 100+ hours down to a handful of hours, and then take all of those hours that your son or your recruiting coach or your, as a parent, and you're spending that time now communicating with the college coach. It's a big point of difference. And I think it's going to be a big separator for those families that partner with Eagle Claw Analytics. So Mike, thanks for that overview. What I'd like to do right now is actually show you exactly what a viability analysis is. Mike, if you wouldn't mind just kind of walking through what exactly a family will be able to get to see. And I think that would be a great way to be able to show them a parent and a player exactly what that is. So Mike, I'll turn it back over to you. This is the college viability analysis. Let me preface by stating, folks, there's not a player's name on this report because we don't release at Elite Baseball, neither does the folks at Eagle Claw Analytics. We don't release names of players on the academic end of it. So please understand that that's why that is there at the forefront. So Mike, I'll turn it over to you again. Let me go right down and start out with your process.
Absolutely. So the first of our products, as Steve said, is called a college viability analysis. And what this is we take all the criteria on what you're looking for in college, right? All the academic, admission, school size, everything like that, in addition to your metrics and all your athletic statistics. And then you give us a list of up to 15 programs that you are currently considering getting recruited to, attending, all the above. And then we break down each one of those 15 options and essentially tell you how viable they are with not only your athletic skill set, but what you're looking for outside of baseball. So our process is based around what's called a percentile evaluation, okay? And what that means is we take your metrics. Let's say we have a class of 2023 throwing 85 miles an hour as a lefty on the mound, okay? He is in the 86th percentile among his high school graduation class, okay? In other words, that means he is throwing harder than 86% of pitchers in the class of 2023. We then take that metric, that percentile, and compare it to the average college commits in each conference, okay? So let's take a Division I commit in the Mountain West Conference, for example. With all the data that we now have, based off the tracking technology that's now a part of our game, we can determine the average percentile of players that are committing and having success at the Mountain West schools, okay? And let's say it's the 86th percentile. We could then tell this example player, look, you are right in line with what Mountain West schools are looking for on the mound. Your skill set fits, okay? Not only do we do fastball velocity, we do 60-yard dash, positional velocity, exit velocity. We get a full picture of your skill set and we compare it to the data. Again, there are no opinions here. We're not bringing in, opinions that are based on things other than the data. This is all just simply telling you, how does your skill set compare to the numbers that are out there? Then we collect our academic information from you. Things like, what are you planning to major in? How academically rigorous do you want your college to be? Do you have a preference on enrollment size? Do you have a preference on cost of attendance? Do you require financial aid? What are your GPA, ACT, and SAT scores? We will, again, we do the job of a college counselor where we'll match you up with schools that fit your academic criteria the same way we match up programs that fit your athletic skill set. Okay. And we really try to paint a full picture of the schools that you inputted for your viability analysis and tell you straight up, is it a good fit or not? Are you on track to be competitive here on the baseball program or not? Is this a good academic fit or not? So right here, we have all of the inputted schools that this example player put in for viability. We run our analysis on all of them, and then we give them a summary right off the bat, breaking down each school with the inferences that we see based on athletic and academic fit, and then also the roster breakdowns at each school. Okay. This particular player is from the state of Utah, and he's looking at Arizona, Arizona State, Grand Canyon, a little bit farther away from his home state. So one thing that we really look at here is the recruiting pipelines. Are they recruiting players out of Utah? And in the case of ASU and U of A, not really, right? Typically, they get the majority of their players from Arizona, California. We have that all broken down in a graph. And the reason why we show you that is you as a player need to take that information, if you're from Utah, and understand that if you want to get adequate exposure from this coaching staff, you are going to need to go to them. Okay, you're going to need to go to prospect camps, tournaments, campus visits in their area in order to get exposure. They're not coming to you in Utah. Okay, of course there are schools that do, but in the case of Arizona State and Arizona, they're not. So if you're serious about going to one of those two schools, you will have to travel and get in front of them. And I think that, as you said, Steve, too often we get the shotgun approach where, parents and players are traveling all over the country to go to different prospect camps without much of a, thought of why am I going to a camp in, Ohio if I want to play college baseball in Arizona, right? And by showing where these schools are getting their players, you can take a more targeted approach on where you're traveling to. You can be much more efficient with what you're looking for and understanding where these schools are finding players. Okay. So in addition to all that, we also break down the position groups by class, especially for older players. If you're, say, a junior or senior, we pay very close attention to the roster makeup in your position group. Okay. Let's say you were a catcher and you were a high school junior. We're looking at the roster breakdowns at each school and seeing what class are their catchers currently. Okay. If they have a lot of upperclassmen, we identify a roster need. They're going to be needing to recruit new catchers that come in because their current guys are on their way out with graduation, right? So we use that as an inference in saying, look, they're going to be recruiting. This could be a good opportunity for you to get in front of this coach who will have a need in the near future to replace catchers that are graduating. Or we look at it and we say, look, there are a lot of freshmen and sophomores. You're going to need to be okay with competing for playing time with older guys coming in, right? They're going to be there for 2 or 3 years by the time you arrive on campus, and it'll be a more crowded position group. And the last major thing that we look at is the percentage of recruits that are coming from other colleges. How many transfers are on the roster? This is extremely important as a high school player coming right into college as a freshman. Okay. We have rosters all the time that are over 50% college transfers. Okay. And again, this doesn't mean that you can't go to that school, but it is information that you need to consider when you show up on campus. You will be competing for playing time with older players that have college baseball experience. Okay. On top of that, if we do find a roster that is over 50% or even 40% transfers, we feel that that is a preference of the coaching staff, that they like older players coming in. So we call these kind of things uphill battles. Okay. We try to minimize the number of uphill battles that you're going to have to fight from the day you arrive on campus. And Steve, you wouldn't believe how many players show up on day one of practice and don't know that half the roster is college transfers, right? This is extremely important information that you need to consider as a part of your decision-making process in recruiting. We're able to quantify it and paint a picture for you. And to be honest, going into college blind on that kind of thing is a great way to not put yourself in the best position. You didn't make your decision based on all the available information. So we really try to give that information to the players and families so they can make the most informed data-based decisions as possible.
Yeah, Mike, if I could just comment on that for a minute, I think it comes down to, and there's no doubt, this transfer portal issue, COVID extra year of eligibility is creating a logjam. There's a lot of 21s that are going to be showing up this fall thinking they are the man, that they are going to play right away. And all of a sudden there's going to be 60 players out there, and playing time is tough, and they just didn't know. So going through roster analysis is so important. And Mike's team breaks it down by position, and by grad year, obviously. So as a recruit, as a family, you are making an educated decision based upon all of that criteria that you have, all of their criteria. And then, that just gives you a better opportunity to be successful. And then there's no doubt there was a program that I ran across yesterday that one of our players was looking at. They've got 22 transfers in this year. And they've already announced next year they've got 17 transfers coming in, and those are grad transfers. That indicates to us that probably the coaching staff may be in trouble. They've not had a winning season for a couple of years, right, and they're going to go to the quick fix. They're going to go to the 21 or 22-year-old that's got 150 plus at-bats or is throwing 100 innings in college instead of thinking about development. So they're short-term and long-term, and it's really, really important today. And those are all questions too, that once we have all of this, obviously, then when we go on our official visits and we're having conversations, that's where then we work really hard on going, here are the questions that the student athlete has to ask the college coach to verify everything. But then we also have all of the data to back it up. So really, really important. And it tells you the schools that you're not a good fit at. I think, at the end of the day, when I began looking at this, and Mike and his guys ran one for my son, who many of you know I have a 2023. And I sat down with Nick, and it basically eliminated probably 3/4 of the list that he had built out because of his preference. But he now understands the why. And I think that was really, really important. And I can't begin to tell you how many hours that's already saved us on research, sending out emails, trying to get through to these coaches. And shoot, they're not even going to recruit me anyway.
And to add a quick point to that too, sorry to interrupt you there, Steve. They're all based on the current roster, okay, and they are updated consistently. So this is current information that we update, and it's better to know that information, and rather than going out to the school and finding out when it's too late to change your mind that, oh, half the roster's transfers, or, oh, I got, 10 guys in my position group ahead of me. Find out beforehand, right? Because, on the flip side, yeah, we do eliminate a lot of options for people based on information, but we also find really good situations for people that you can come in and make an impact and be in a very good situation and have a coaching staff, quite frankly, that is excited to have you there. they have an investment in you, and they expect you to come in and be an impact player. It's just night and day with those two situations. And, yes, we eliminate some, but that's an elimination process to get down to the ones that really do fit, and getting a player closer to an opportunity that they're going to come in and succeed right off the bat.
Yeah, and then I think closing out the viability analysis, just bringing this one to a close because we want to talk about the prospect placement. You'll see that Mike and his team sample coaches letter, very, very important to be personalized. We talk about this all the time in our recruiting workshops and webinars. Obviously, it's not a cookie cutter approach, but they give you a guide here. They also give they give you guys an email list of how to contact them. So they're at least starting that process for you and laying the groundwork. And then on the viability analysis, they go through every college. And maybe we just take Arizona State here for an example, Mike, if you'd walk through, this was one of the schools that this 23 recruit was interested in.
Yeah. So we break down each college, and our main goal is to give you a snapshot of that school, both academically and athletically. We start off with essentially an overview of the school, public or private, religiously affiliated. What's the enrollment? What's the student to faculty ratio? What's the sophomore retention rate? Okay. These are very important numbers. We're big fans over here of the sophomore retention rate. We think that you can learn a lot of information based on are people returning to the school, right? And that could be a variety of factors. But if the sophomore retention rate is high, like it is at ASU, we feel confident in the culture at the school. Kids going there enjoy it enough to come back. So we typically do pay attention to that quite a bit. And then obviously we break down your cost of attendance in state and out of state. The big thing with this is it is cost of attendance, not tuition. Okay. So cost of attendance is your total estimated cost, tuition, room and board, cost of living in the town. It's everything into one estimation based on if you're in state or out of state. Okay. A lot of times you hear people just talk about tuition. It only tells half the story, right? There are a lot of other costs that come with college on top of tuition. So we use that metric to really paint a picture of what is 1 year at this university actually going to cost me, right? And then we break down the financial aid by both the need met and the average amount of financial aid given. Okay, so you can use that to kind of start thinking about what you can expect to get if you do need financial aid. And then obviously on the far right, we have admissions. So average GPA, average SAT, ACT, along with the 75th percentile and the acceptance rate. We look at this to make sure that not only you have a good chance to get into the school, but especially if you're a younger guy, a lot of times we have players that think that, baseball and academics are separate, right? If I can be a really good baseball player, I don't have to worry about my grades. Well, the truth of the matter is, if you're going to play in college, they're not separate, right? They're very important. And when you look at a school that has competitive admissions, not only do you have to get in to the school to play there, but having a good GPA and competitive test scores can be a very valuable thing to bring to the table when you're talking to a coach. A lot of the schools that we end up either recommending or having people interested in are very good academic schools. And we always have to have the conversation of, look, your grades can be the deciding factor for a coach, whether he recruits you or a different guy with a similar athletic skill set. If you're able to bring the grades, right, to not only get into the school, but potentially get some academic money and fulfill their admissions requirements, that's a huge, huge tool to bring to the table. So we make sure we evaluate that for older guys. And then for younger guys, we make sure to let them understand that you got to study for your test scores. You got to make sure your GPA stays up. It's all combined. There is no separate. Baseball and academics is combined. And then we really just show a few pictures of the campus and the town. We are big believers in, trying to show a glimpse of what life is like at a university, at a town. Obviously you can go out there and visit the campus and get a great feel. Obviously you have to travel to do that. So if we can give you at least a little bit of a feel for what things look like, a lot of people have a preference on, whether they want to live in a big city or a small town. They have an ideal location in mind, an ideal situation where if we can just show them a few pictures, it can go a long way in painting a picture of, okay, what's life going to be like if I go live here for 4 years, right? And we do something similar on the baseball side where we show them, a picture of the athletic facilities. We show them the field. You can tell a lot from athletic facilities of the baseball program, right? And it is something that is important to a lot of players. They want to go and play at a program that invests in their baseball program, right? Invests in their players. And a lot of times that can be reflected in the facilities that they play at. So being able to kind of show the atmosphere on the baseball side, pictures of the team. Again, we're just kind of putting a few images to what we're telling you, painting a picture of the school, the team, and a snapshot of what it would be like to go out there and play.
Well, thanks, Mike. And I think, when you summarize everything, it's what Mike and his team are bringing is a one-stop shop of data-driven analytics to, again, give the family and the student athlete, the recruit, a snapshot of, do you have the skills to play there? Do they recruit players of your skill level? Do they recruit out of state or in state? What's the roster size? What's the transfer rate? On top of the fact that, as everybody has heard from me, and this is another big component to the reason why we love Eagle Claw Analytics, it's about the academics, the point of separation. When you get a great degree and you set yourself up for life, then you set yourself up for success. This is, and you may have heard this already from me before, this is, in my opinion, in our opinion at Elite Baseball, the second biggest decision the family and your son is going to make in his life. We believe the most important decision is when they get married and they begin having a family and they have a career. And this second biggest decision sets them up for that success if we get it right. And the more analytics, the more info, more data will give us an opportunity to get it right. So now I'm going to pull up the post-placement or the college placement report. Mike, maybe you could go through that, spend a few minutes and just talk about, where that comes into play.
Yep, sure thing. So similar to the college viability analysis, with the prospect placement report, again, we're taking all your criteria, both academically and athletically. The difference is, rather than the player giving us a list of up to 15 schools that they're considering, we actually recommend 15 to 20 schools that we feel like are great fits for both athletic and academic skill set. So it's the same evaluation process. We're still using our percentile analysis. This example is a 2022 from California. Okay. And again, all the academic and athletic information is the same. We take that information, we compare it to all our database, in all of our databases, both athletically and academically, and we come up with schools that are best fits. We provide all the same information, means of contacting, what a good email looks like, and then we show you why we feel like these schools fit what you're looking for. All the snapshots are exactly the same. And again, we include the roster breakdowns at the end that show, recruiting pipelines. Obviously, Chapman recruits heavily in California, which bodes well for this individual who is from the state of California. And the main thing that I want to say about this is by no means are the 15 to 20 schools that we recommend the only options for this player. Okay. There are plenty of options beyond the schools that we recommend. We are picking 15 to 20 that we feel like are very good fits across the board. Okay. So this is not a limitation on the kid that he has to pick one of these 15 to 20, but they are 15 to 20 options that we bring to the table for consideration. Another thing is, I know the recruiting process can get complicated. It can get messy. There's a lot of information everywhere you look. It can be a little bit overwhelming. The bottom line is there is a good opportunity out there for every player, no matter what your athletic and academic skill set. There is a place for you. Okay. So it's just a matter of narrowing down the options out there and arriving on what those schools are. So, for example, a player that gets a prospect placement report, they get these 15 to 20 schools. They look through it. They say, hey, yep, I really love these 10. I'm going to go forward and contact the coach. Okay. And they know that they're in a very competitive position to get recruited here. They know that it fits what they're looking for academically. It fits what they're looking for culturally, socially, and they can feel really confident in their targeted approach to recruiting. As we talked about before, one of the toughest parts in college recruiting is actually narrowing down all the options into a manageable list that you can then act on. Okay. So if we can help you do that with this information and all your criteria, now you have a manageable list that you can start contacting coaches. You can start traveling to prospect camps. You can start going to tournaments, taking visits to campus, and have it be targeted and efficient rather than taking a shotgun approach of, well, we're not sure where we can play, so why don't we just visit everywhere? That's not the best approach, right? So really what we're trying to do here is just narrow things down for you and give you a starting point of schools that you can begin to act on and start contacting coaches and traveling and et cetera.
Yeah, and I think when I'm looking at this slide right here, the roster analysis, which Mike, you've commented on a couple of times, this takes an enormous amount of time for our student athletes and our families to go through. And this is just delivered right here. You know exactly what's going on in the recruiting. Where are they recruiting? What's their class distribution? So are they looking for specific infielders and outfielders? And again, it just gives you a quick snapshot. And I think this right here alone has tremendous value. And, just getting it right. And again, breaking down all the barriers. So there's no doubt that this report goes a little bit more in depth and obviously gives you a lot of analysis coming right from Eagle Claw, all on the data driven. So thanks for sharing that with us. But so a lot of information, which is good, the more information, but I'll say the more qualified information. Like I said, there's a lot of info out there and there's a lot of noise out there. And if you do this, you're going to be here. And if you do that, and now you're going to be standing around travel baseball games and everybody's going to be an expert. My challenge to you as a parent, my challenge to you as a student athlete is to go out and find the resources that have high levels of credibility, that have the experience, they're data driven, they have the results and the success, and bring that into your recruiting, what I call your recruiting portfolio. And I can tell you that in the short term that we've been working with Eagle Claw, I mean, it's spot on. I mean, our players are getting huge. They're just the feedback has been tremendous. We've taken now what are massive amounts of hours, and literally within 3 days, we have what I call a more rifle approach. And it fits into the 4 pillars: getting it right academically, getting it right socially, getting it right geographically, and getting it right athletically. I'm a firm believer you get those 4 pillars correct in building your recruiting journey, you will have a successful outcome. And as Mike, and I can't agree with him more, there is a home for every student athlete, but it's got to be the right home, just not a home. So excited, but this is stage 1. We're going to get more into a lot more on the educational about the why as we move forward. Hope you've enjoyed the information that Mike has shared with you today. We're going to be inviting you to a series of webinars. We're going to be open and transparent, have parents ask questions about this, get into the details. But on behalf of Elite Baseball Prospect, again, Mike, I'd say we are super pumped to have you as part of our partnership team, supporting your efforts, bringing your expertise, bringing your team to our college recruits across the country and in Latin America. There's no doubt that this is going to have a huge, huge impact. And I also want to tell the parents that this is not breaking the bank type of service either. I mean, you just break down the amount of hours that goes into it and getting it right. So we'll get more into that. And with Elite Baseball, we're going to make some special offers and some special opportunities where you can actually take it for a test drive and get a sample report on your son. And then I'm including, a 45-minute student athlete family evaluation, making sure it's a good fit, making sure it's great for the family. So we're looking forward to that. And again, Mike, welcome, awesome, and look forward to a great future together.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Steve. I appreciate it.
Okay. Until next time, everybody, take care, stay healthy, and let's go play some baseball. Take care.